Here with me today, Short Takes is back. It's Will Stewart, Birmingham musician who recently released the excellent album Moonwinks back in February of this year, 2025. You can see and hear him play his good, fine music at Tuscaloosa on the day of this release. If you haven't watched this, day of the release, I think he'll be in Tuscaloosa June 13th at 8. Yep. And that's at the Plaza?
Yeah, it's called Live on the Plaza. I've never played it before, but it's my understanding that they kind of block off the downtown main area, so it's kind of like a street show.
Yeah, that should be cool. But you can also catch him at the Church Key in Birmingham on June 19th. Mosey's downtown in Panama City, August 1st. I might be missing a few here.
Yeah, those are what I have officially announced, but I have a good bit in early fall that I should be announcing soon. So mostly Southeast, like Atlanta, Athens, Knoxville, Mississippi, New Orleans. So I'll have a lot more to announce soon. Those are what I have on the books right now, yeah.
That's great. And any shows with the Blips or some of the other bands you work with?
The Blips, we're kind of on an extended hiatus, and not for any particular reason other than we're just busy doing our own stuff.
Yeah.
But nothing confirmed as of now. But that's just one of those kind of things where if an offer comes along and we can all do it, we'll do it.
Yeah.
So it's mostly my solo band stuff. I also play with a band called Timber with Janet Simpson. We are actually playing this coming, I guess the show won't be released until it's on June 12th. So there's no sense of promoting it on this because it'll be released like the next day.
Yeah.
But we're doing that. But it's mostly just my stuff right now that I'm playing live.
Yeah. Well, it's fun stuff.
Thank you.
What year was it Bad Memory came out? I think that might have been the single or the first lead off of that.
Yeah, that was 2022.
Oh man. I thought that was such a good album. I thought that was the best album I'd heard that year.
Oh, thank you very much.
I don't know if you remember this, but we conversed. This is back when Twitter was still okay, kind of.
Right, yeah.
And I think I messaged you.
I do remember that. Now that you're mentioning that, and it's very kind of you to send that message and be so kind about the music in that album. That was one of those albums where like I recorded it kind of in the wake of COVID stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I wasn't able to kind of promote it properly and do a full rollout. Mm-hmm. But I'm so gled you like it because that's one of my favorites too.
But I also like Moonwinks, that's more recent. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
How first of all, are you a Birmingham native?
I was born and raised in Montgomery.
Really?
So yeah. And so I moved away to Tuscaloosa when I was 18. And that's kind of how I got wind of the Moonwinks because it's an old motor lodge that was in Alberta City, which is right outside of Tuscaloosa. Mm-hmm. So it always kind of had this kind of lore around it that I thought was super cool. It was like a nostalgia trip for Route 66 kind of places. And it was kind of mysterious. There's a lot of folklore around it. It kind of stayed with me all those years. And then it finally has come full circle with this album. And I wrote my own little ghostly narrative about the whole place. I mean, I like to think of the songs as like these little short stories or vignettes.
That's a good description.
So I can kind of weave in these kind of ghostly characters in and out of the whole thing and kind of make this one long arc of the narrative of Moonwinks.
Yeah, the girlfriend who's selling the guitar for meth and she almost dies. That's kind of scary stuff.
It is, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like laughing and being lighthearted about it, but it is like some of it's kind of heavy material. I mean, and still around, it's essentially a murder-suicide tale, without explicitly saying it. But the idea is a lot of these characters kind of, like Penny, for example, my idea was that she's the lady in Roxy Blue and still around too. So I don't know. Those are little kind of Easter eggs that I like to leave mostly for my own amusement. I mean, I don't expect anyone to be like, oh yeah, that's the lady that he's talking about in Roxy Blue is Penny. Like I don't expect anyone to, because I don't explicitly say it, but it's just kind of fun for me to do that kind of stuff.
Dude, it is fun. You may know Adam Morrow.
Yes.
Close friend of mine, and he
He's great.
helps a lot with Alabama Take stuff, and he helps with one of our podcasts. He had a few questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I said, send them my way. He wanted to know how you found all the archival pictures for the sleeves of Moonwings.
Yeah, that's a great question. Lee Shook mostly helped with that,
Okay.
especially the Sun Ra stuff.
Yeah.
Lee is maybe one of the biggest Sun Ra fans I know. And as a matter of fact, a few weeks ago, I'm sure you heard about all the work he did in bringing the orchestra here, making May 22nd officially Sun Ra Day. It's now like via city proclamation. He did just such amazing work to make all that happen. But that song, the orchestra, Dreamland, was well before he did any of that stuff. I sent him the album, and he, immediately we started talking about the orchestra at Dreamland, and he knew all about those shows and sent me the poster for it. And anyway, he works for Earth Libraries too, which is the label that the album was released on. So I kind of enlisted him to help me find some of those photos that Sun Ra was staying at the Moonwinks Lodge. So those pictures were all drummed up by Lee. So I really owe a lot of that to him.
Yeah. Adam also wanted me to ask what inspired the New Orleans nods in the song Penny.
Yeah, it's funny because I was talking to my buddy Connor that lives down there, a musician buddy of mine that I played shows with many times in New Orleans. And I was down there, I played a show at BJ's Lounge, which is a really great kind of club / local bar down in the Bywater, which is one of my favorite neighborhoods down there. BJ's, I think, it's on St. Claude. So it was after a long weekend in New Orleans, and we just had a blast. And I kind of just wrote that song maybe like the week after I got back from that weekend.
Oh, okay.
Because I had all the street names in my head. We encounter some characters down there every time I go.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite cities. So honestly, it was after that time we played at BJ's. I just kind of sat down and wrote the whole kind of narrative out. But that's a great question, man. And I love Adam's music, and I got to hang out with him a little bit in Florence maybe like a month or two ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I asked him if he went to your show.
Yeah, he did.
He knows I'm a big fan, so I was asking.
Yeah.
He even sent a question and says, why don't you make your next record at Portside Sound with him and those guys?
Love that. Yeah. I would love that.
I think it would be good. You remember the super group, the Blips, and that just blows me away that you're part of those guys, because I love every one of them.
I've always kind of joked that I'm like the least rock guy in that whole band. It's a
good balance.
It is. I think that's what makes it cool. There's so many different, like Taylor and Chris that come from a similar background, or Eric too, because Eric played with Lee for a long time.
Yep.
And then you have Wes McDonald.
Wes.
So it's just like this. I just love how the variation of everyone's style comes together for that.
It's perfect. Yeah, you're right about that. Is there anything you want to try or you want to give a go? Because you even have a live album out. You've worked with Slack Time, Sarah Lee Langford. Is there what's out there that you might do or want?
Like as far as a collaboration?
Like play a particular place?
I've definitely got a long list of venues that I want to play. And I've been lucky to play a lot of cool rooms thus far in my sort of music journey, if you want to call it that. If that doesn't sound too cheesy, but it's
not.
But I mean, the Ryman is definitely at the top of the list, because back in 2012, I moved to Nashville, and I was still green about so many things, but I needed just basically a job just to pay my bills. And I got a job working, I was doing backstage hospitality at the Ryman. So I did that for about a year in 2012. And I just always remember being like, man, how hilarious and cool would it be if I can come back and play this room one day? So that's definitely I would hope that my boss would still be on staff there.
Yeah.
So I could just like, hey, you remember me? I was the guy that worked minimum wage for you. But that's definitely at the top of the list, just for that. Not just that reason alone. It's just kind of a legendary place.
Yeah.
Red Rocks is up there. I mean, there's so many amazing kind of legendary venues all across the country.
Are you a big country music fan?
Yes, for sure. I wouldn't say there's definitely thousands and maybe millions of people out there that are more fanatic about it than I am. But certainly when I was in Nashville, I just kind of got an up close, that kind of put me on a path at like digging deeper into beyond Willie Nelson and and all the real famous names to kind of really dig deep back into the history of it. So I really kind of became really enamored with it during those years. And since then I have been a huge, mostly classic country fan, but and I grew up in Montgomery, that's where Hank Williams lived most of his life. And as a matter of fact, one of my first bands was this really janky Hank Williams tribute band.
Oh,
when I was like in 8th grade. And I'm glad that recordings don't exist because it probably sounded like utter shit, but
you answered my next question, which was where are the recordings? I got to hear it.
I think there might be a video, but hopefully it's very, very hard to find. But yeah, I mean, but Hank for sure has always been, I mean, I have this huge Paul Wilm picture of Hank like hanging in a living room. So he's just truly one of my heroes. But that, started with Hank and then progressed on and Lefty Frizzell and Kitty Wells, Jimmy Rogers, going even back into old time and bluegrass too. So, I mean, the full scope of roots music for sure.
Yeah, I love it too. I should have asked this earlier. How long were you in Tuscaloosa?
I was there a little over 4 years for school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I went to school there. I got a communications degree that I haven't used at all. Other than if you count singing and playing guitar, communications.
Yeah.
But
when you do your own booking, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's true. Yeah.
What were the years? Because I lived there for 16, 17 years.
Really?
Yeah.
01 to 06 roughly.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely. I would have been there. I was in.
Where are you now?
I'm in Arab, Alabama, south of Huntsville. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I love that area.
I love the area quite a lot. It's got a little bit of history I don't care for, but I do love the area.
Oh, sure. Well, that's everywhere in the South. I want to say some of the best tomatoes I've ever had have come from that area. I don't know what it is, but every time I've had there's some kind of variety up there. I couldn't tell you. Maybe it was like the Brandywine or something.
Wow.
But I don't know. I feel like I've had these tomatoes from that area, because it's technically in the Sand Mountain area, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe the soil or something, but just amazing.
It's weird. You ready to get in our 4 questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do that. 4 questions. If you're new to the show, we chat a little and then we get into some 4 questions, which you might not normally hear in a show like this. That's our goal. So, first question: what's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about you, whether directly to your face or you heard about later?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and it's something that I rarely maybe have ever thought about. That's the mark of a good question too. I would say one time someone said that I make them feel calm, and I thought that was to me it was wow, that makes me feel great about myself, that I could be a calming presence for someone, even though I feel like I overthink and do a litany of things that are not calm. That was really heartening for me to hear that I would be a calming presence for someone.
I can certainly see it. That's a very nice.
Yeah,
nice
I thought so too.
Our second question: what do you envy in others?
Yeah, and this one is a tough, interesting one too. But I would say, kind of tying into that last one, I overthink things a lot. I would say people that don't tend to overthink and overanalyze every little thing, I'm very kind of envious of, because that's kind of one of my biggest things that I try to work on myself. I take something that kind of bugs me about my own kind of personality and stuff, and so the opposite of that would be something I envy. Overanalyzing is definitely one of those things.
Do you meditate?
I have. I wouldn't say properly, and it's something that I've thought about doing as far as like mindfulness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that would help. And that's something I need to explore for sure. Are you into that?
I went a few days. I went about 7 or 8 days recently. It started to have its effect, and then life got in the way. But I've done it off and on for a few years, but I wish I could just for a whole 2 months.
I know. Yeah. I need to explore that. I'm glad you brought that up because it's something that I wanted to dabble with, but I never. So if you do it daily, how long were you doing it?
The longest I had gotten was up to about 11 or 12 minutes. So it was not a chunk of time that was probably making a huge impact.
If that's just sitting in silence, that probably seems like 2 hours,
It feels like, yes, it feels like 30 minutes to
Probably pretty intense, I'm sure.
Well, I was using a guided meditation
Mhm.
so that they would kind of help you stop the thoughts.
That's cool. I need to explore that. Yeah.
So question 3, we're to this one. Give me a quote that resonates with you and maybe even you turn to at times in your life.
Yeah. And I'll kind of piggyback on the last question about overthinking. I mean, I'm a big Mark Twain fan. I mean, a lot of other people, he's just one of the best, but, he had such a penchant for like breaking down profound things into like 1 or 2 sentences. But yeah, there's one where like a worrying kind of quote where he's like, worrying is like paying a debt you don't owe.
Yeah.
And I always thought that summed it up very nicely. In a way where it's like, yeah, you're right. Like why am I worried about this thing that actually probably won't ever happen?
Yeah.
So I try to think about that often when I get in my head about things.
And Tom Petty also used a very similar quote of most things I worry about never happen anyway.
That's right.
That's
It's kind of the same idea. And it's so true too.
Yeah. What a great quote. You don't see many people who say they're into Mark Twain these days. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I hope his spirit and his work lives on for a long time, which I'm sure it will. But he's just one of my all-time favorites. Yeah.
Really cool, man. He can be really funny. I know that.
Hilarious. I mean, that was kind of his forte,
Mm-hmm.
using humor as his ultimate kind of tool,
Our final question is the same question for every guest, and it just stems from something my mom used to say. It's just what's done up real good for you.
Yeah, and I love that phrase too.
Don't you? Yeah, it's kind of a cool. The origin is probably a lot of people know it by now, but she would iron my clothes the day before school, and she would say, "Oh, this shirt's done up real good," just meaning it's going to look good tomorrow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize no one said that until I got into college and was hanging out with Caleb Johnson.
Oh, yeah, I
And-
love Caleb.
Yeah. I said it to him one night and it cracked him up, and I was like, "What? No one says this?
That's so good. I'm gonna have to use that. Or
Please do.
put it in some way.
Please do." Yeah.
That's just one of the great things about the South too, is the way it's just the way you say things and the use of certain words together that you normally wouldn't hear. But that's a great example of one of those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would say, using your definition of that phrase, and if I'm understanding this correctly, something that I basically just like what I like to do to pass the time and kind of.
It could be anything. We've had so many different answers. It could be an album you listen to or a restaurant you've eaten at. Just like what's hitting for you? What's feeling good to you today?
Here recently, since from spring onward, I get really into working in my yard. I'm not a full-on gardener, but I like to dabble with that kind of stuff. And even if it's just cutting my yard and picking away at trimming hedges and stuff in the backyard, I mean, that's really a time for me to clear my head, and very therapeutic for me. It has become, especially in the last 5-6 years. So this is like one of my favorite times of the year because I get to start doing stuff in the yard again, planting things. I'm trying to grow some tomatoes this year, so I'm kind of stoked about that.
Well, it sounds kind of like you're doing a form of meditation through that.
Yes, exactly. And I firmly believe that. It's a big part of my routine as of late, but it like I said, it just helps me clear my head. I try to, if I'm working on a music thing, lyrics or a melody or something, I don't know. It allows me to kind of wipe away the cobwebs a little bit, and then all of a sudden, like something will be kind of clear, which I'm
Yeah.
sure that's the whole idea of meditating, you know. You can create a space in your head that allows you to be kind of creative and or just clearer and focused better.
Right. Yeah. And a song you can kind of carry around in your back pocket.
Exactly.
If it hits you while you're mowing or trimming hedges, there it is.
It's a very kind of Buddhist thing, what
Yeah.
I'm into. You know, the more you think about it, the further away an idea can get, in my opinion. You know, so it's those moments where you're not thinking that will become kind of clear and in focus for me.
That's profound, and I love it. It's right up my alley. That's a great place for us to end. For anyone listening, watching, we're going to put some links in the show notes on YouTube, and you can follow Will on social media, keep up with him, catch him at a show. He's got some shows coming out that he hasn't put on his site, and I highly recommend it.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
It's been a pleasure, Will. Thanks for coming by.
We'll do it again soon.
Okay.